everybody. I'm Sharon Brown, and today I am interviewing Shona. Shona works in a school. She's training to be head teacher. Is that correct?
I am currently training to be a head teacher, yeah.
So she's doing really well, and she's got some amazing plans and goals for the future, who I definitely want to be involved in some way or another to help push her forward. And I think it's something that needs to get out there to see who else is involved. So I'm going to hand over to Shona for her to give us an introduction and to kick us off with what her plans are.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Sharon. So basically, I've been interested in property for quite a while now, ever since I was a kid, actually. But in the last year and a half, I've been kind of learning more in-depth things about strategies, about finance. At the same time, working full-time in an alternative provision, which basically that means we're a school that are not quite like a mainstream. So we take kids that are excluded. Sometimes we have kids that are temporary, or we have kids that are permanent. If they're permanent, it's usually because they're in year 11 or sometimes year 10. If they're younger than that, then we usually send them back to school after a little while. So I was working out how to merge what I'm already doing with what I want to do, and what I came up with was to create like a property school. And the reason is because basically these kids that go to my school at the moment, we do GCSEs, by the way. A lot of APs don't, but we do. I don't necessarily think that's what we should do, but in order to secure contracts, that's kind of what we have to do so that people want to send their kids to us. But it's not always the right thing to do. Like if your kid was going to be getting 5 1s, which to you and me that means like G's. Okay. If they're only going to get 1s or 2s, so G's or F's, people don't even realize like F's exist. They're like, F's an F fail. No, F is a pass. It's just a very low pass. So if that's what your kid was predicted, why would you be pushing them to do the GCSE to get that result? Or they might be able to go up 1 grade and get an E. And I just feel like if that was my kid, I just wouldn't want that for them. I'd want them to do something that they enjoyed, something they knew that they were getting better at. And you always get better at the things you enjoy because you put more effort into them. So yeah, my idea is to basically work with investors to flip properties or BRR, but get the kids in so they can actually do the stuff in the property. Because myself, I don't know about everybody, but I learn better when I'm in a situation. Like if you tell me about something, I'm not taking it in, which is funny because I make lots of videos and tell people about stuff. But that's why in some of my videos I show people how to do stuff, because I'm a visual learner that also kinesthetic. Like I have to be doing it to actually learn it. And I just feel like getting kids that feel quite unmotivated into a house where they can actually do some of the painting and decorating, we could work towards qualifications in plastering, plumbing, that kind of stuff, then hopefully that gives them like, oh, I am worth something, I can do something. And those are really good trades, and they are going to exist after COVID. Some jobs aren't, but those will. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm working on at the moment.
So when you said AP, what does that actually mean? I don't have a clue what that actually means.
So alternative provision.
Right.
So there's different types of alternative provision. So my one, I guess you would say, was a behaviour school. So kids get sent there if they're excluded from school, or sometimes it's a managed move. That means because when you get excluded from school, that actually goes on your record. And it doesn't look very good when you're necessarily applying for jobs and stuff. So sometimes you get a managed move, which is when a kid just moves to your school because they agree to, rather than they get excluded, because that doesn't look good. Some APs are set up for kids that have really high anxiety. So there are some young people that are basically locked in their bedrooms because they won't come out, or not necessarily in their bedrooms, but at home. They won't come out to go to school or go anywhere. So some AP deliver like home education. Some APs, we get different types of kids. So you've got really, really vulnerable kids. Actually, I'd say that most AP kids are vulnerable kids because they've already kind of been set aside from the mainstream system. So a lot of the kids have special needs. They're not necessarily diagnosed, but I can kind of tell when we get the kids which ones those are. And that means you kind of have to do things a bit differently. But I think mainstream school anyway doesn't, I mean, I don't even know how they have 30 kids in a class with one teacher in that room. That just seems crazy to me. Like, how are you going to get the care and support you need if that's what you get every day? Like, you have to share that one teacher with 29 other kids. So in our school, we only have up to 12 kids in a class. And then you have a coordinator and a learning mentor with them all the time. And the teachers travel around the group. So potentially you've got 3 members of staff for 12 kids, but you usually don't even have 12 kids in the class. So everybody gets loads of one-to-one time, basically.
So how far have you got in regards to where you are with setting up your school? Are you currently looking for investors? Do you have a plan in place? Is there, whereabouts are you?
Well, I'd say I'm still at the beginning. So from when I started doing more property stuff, people always said to me, oh, Shona, like, that's what you need to tell everybody, that that's what you want to do. But I didn't really get that that's what I was supposed to do, because all the training and stuff, because I was doing training in sourcing to make capital so that I could set up this school, because I thought I'll flip properties myself and bring in the kids to do it. Then all the training is about how to source and how to get investors to buy properties off of you, which I was trying to work out how I could link that together, which I can still do it that way. But that's what I was focusing on. And it's only actually been the last few weeks that I've been like, oh, okay, maybe I actually do need to tell people more about what my actual passion is, because I didn't realize that people say to me, oh, when you start talking about your school, that's when you get excited. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize this. So yeah, I haven't got very far at all, really, but I've just started talking to the local council because APs, you know, we work with the local council anyway because we get kids to do school, so you have to do that. That's all a legal thing anyway. So if we could put together some departments like the housing department with the education department and we could merge like a project, I feel like that might be the way forward. But also we could get other investor I'm not really sure exactly how we finance it yet. That's the bit I gotta work out.
You seem to have a two-pronged approach there, don't you? You've got the side that where you're buying the properties, getting the investors in regards to buying them and flipping them. So you've got the pupils in there doing that work and learning that trade, and then you've got the school side of it. So I suppose it's that two-pronged approach of how you're going to be then setting up the school versus how you're going to have the kids in there as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So where I already work in an AP, and I'm the curriculum manager, by the way, so that means I'm in charge of everything that they learn anyway. But there are things I have to do legally, so I have to embed like maths and English. So what I can do is write a curriculum so that my kids in my school could come out to do that stuff maybe 1 or 2 days a week, and have different kids different days of the week. Like I could just write it in as like a new subject on their timetable, so that isn't really going to be a problem. Doing the property stuff is the stuff that I have to learn more about, because I know less about it, but I do know a lot and I know a lot of people in the industry, so it's about fixing that all together. And for a long time I've been trying to like just do it myself, but I think in reality that's not how things work. You have to work with other people, and different people have different skill sets and different knowledge, and so it's important for me to partner up with those people that are interested in what I'm doing, find out their skill set, and then we all work together to kind of make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also that thing of you never know who they know, so by telling them your story they might know somebody else that's going to help you as well.
Yeah, exactly. So 2 days ago, somebody told me I needed to do more stuff on LinkedIn. I was like, okay. So I went on LinkedIn, I posted something. Oh, I think you told me I also had to do more stuff on LinkedIn. And so then somebody else told me, when I told them what I was doing, they were like, oh, you should speak to this person. So people just give me names. So then I searched this person's name. They were on LinkedIn. And so I messaged them, and then down the side, it said other people they may know. And then it came up with the name of the housing people in the borough. And I was like, let's just go for it. Let's just message them. So I did. I messaged about 10 people. And then within the hour, one of them had messaged me back and said, oh, that sounds like a really good idea. Let's set up some dates in the new year to have a chat. So yeah, I didn't actually personally physically know any of these people, but from talking to one person, that had then a knock-on chain effect that I spoke to somebody who may be that perfect person that I need to talk to, but I don't know yet. Let's not get too excited.
You can always get excited about it. It's definitely a win. It's about making those connections, and you know, it does take up sometimes to just send out that message, doesn't it? To ask for what you want and the information that you need. I think that takes a lot of guts as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you said about a win. So on all the Facebook groups, like they say when they've had a win, and I hardly ever write that I've had a win, because it doesn't feel like it, because other people's big wins are like, oh yeah, they've just completed on a property, or they've just sold that property and made this profit, or they've managed to refinance it and pull this money out. Like those are like the big wins of like business in property, right? And I haven't got to that bit. I don't even know now if that's even what I'm really working towards. Do you know what I mean? If I could work in property and be doing this with the kids and make enough money to live off of and be doing it that way, then I think that's fine. So I think I really need to look at, well, what are my smaller wins? Because if you can't celebrate those little wins, that's when it does get quite lonely, because you think you're not getting anywhere. But people keep telling me I'm doing really well. And I'm like, am I? I don't feel like it.
It does feel like that. And I'm the same. I'm not very good at having that main goal and then having the little mini goals underneath that you can hit. That's where I really struggle with stuff. So I'm the same. I sort of sit there and go, oh, look at all the stuff that they're doing. And then it's like, oh, I've done a little bit of that and I've done a little bit of that. And it's like, well, I just go, oh yeah, I've done that, and then I move on. So, I mean, I think you're doing amazing. You know, you are getting that message out there. And it's like when in one of the groups that were in with Kajita Wealth, then Sarah messaged to ask where you were because she was missing you singing in the video. So it's that thing of when you're not around, you do definitely feel that gap that you've not been around for a while. Obviously, you're very busy with school being back in and things like that. So yeah, I suppose COVID hasn't been great for you with school and things as well.
Well, when I started Kajito, that was actually when it was the first lockdown. So that helped me have loads of time. Basically, I travel an hour and 15 minutes every day to get to work. So that's 2.5 hours a day that I was saving from not driving to work because we were doing it online. So that was the time that I spent on Kajito, as well as time on the weekends. So I actually managed to learn a lot during the lockdown. Then when the lockdown eased and we went back to school, that was really hard, because it's just really hard because people have to keep going home to isolate. They're not even necessarily sick, but they have to isolate, and then everyone's worried that the person sitting next to them is sick, but also walking around with masks all day is not nice. I read people's facial expressions a lot, so I really hate walking around people with masks. I used to have quite a fear of it actually, but you have to get over that now because everyone's wearing a mask. So yeah, that was hard. Then I had the summer, so I had lots of time to work on stuff during that. Then we went back to school, and I feel like that was even harder because, yeah, people are off sick a lot. And it's not even that they've got COVID or they're isolating, but people are so fearful of getting COVID. It's making people unwell because they just don't feel themselves. And my job, because I'm like the manager, I'm like, come on guys, it's all right, we'll get through this. I'm like, can you cover this lesson? Can you cover this lesson? I'll cover that lesson. Because I always make sure that I jump in with my team. Like I never ask my team to do more than I would do. But that means I get exhausted as well, because I'm trying to show them that come on, we can do this. But that means that I do less of my managing duties, and some of that falls behind. So weighing all that up is hard. And that meant also that I couldn't really focus on my idea of what I want to do. Something that is pushing me is because I started my head teacher qualification just before the summer, but my first real lesson was in October. And so I have to hit these targets for that. And for me, it really helps to have targets and things that I have to read by a certain time. So that is forcing me now, I guess, to set up what I need to set up, because even if it's only in the beginning stages, that will count towards my head teacher qualification, which is really cool that I'm managing to kind of merge everything together. I just mentioned that I have to do a lot of reading. I'm dyslexic, so reading is really, really, really hard. I also have ADHD, so I get bored really, really easily. So whenever I read a page, I might read it. I could even read it out loud, but I could daydream while I was reading. I don't know if that's what lots of people do. So I have to read the same page like over and over again to take it in. So all the stuff I have to read to do qualifications just seems to take me so much longer than everybody else. I don't know how people skim read. That's like magic to me when people go, it says this. I'm like, how the hell did you do that?
It amazes me how quickly some people read. It takes me forever. That's why I just went to audio, because with audio, it's just so easy. You don't have to interpret what's on the page, or like you say, read things multiple times. I mean, for me, I just find that if it's in my ear and I can hear it, I find my imagination goes with the book rather than trying to read it. And then, like you say, if my brain just goes on to something else, I could even turn a page and then think, what was there? So, yeah, I mean, I haven't been diagnosed with anything, so I don't know if it's a thing that a lot of people do or if it's part of ADHD.
Just us.
It's
Yeah, audio is really good. So when I was saying that I commute to work, basically through my car, I listen to audiobooks, podcasts, and that's how I was managing to get some property knowledge even when I was driving. Basically, that's what I was doing.
And it's a long time, isn't it? An hour and a half each way. It's a lot of learning you can do in that time, isn't it?
Yeah, and actually it makes the journey more enjoyable. It doesn't seem as long, which is good, because oh my god, when you're stuck in traffic, I basically sit in traffic every day, but not at the moment because it's Christmas. I'm at home at the moment.
So with the school, do you know at this point in time what kind of investors you're looking for at the moment? Is it investors for you to be flipping these properties and getting the money in at the moment? So are you able to take the kids out of school at the moment if you had a flip going on?
So at the moment, well, I'm not at school right now, but when we go back, it will be very difficult because of COVID and you have to risk assess everything. So until I get an investor who is like, if I had an investor that was already flipping a house where my school is, that would be a brilliant first step, because it wouldn't involve putting any money into it. They might already be doing it, but they'd be willing to let a kid come and just visit, and we could just talk through what they're doing. If that, again, that needs risk assessing. Because of COVID, it'd be really complicated. It doesn't mean we can't do it, but every situation needs to be risk assessed on its own merit, kind of thing. Yeah. So it is possible to do that. Yes, I'm looking for investors that, obviously I said I am a compliant sourcer, so I'm also looking for investors that I could source properties for, because then if I could sell some deals, then I could build up some capital so that I could buy some properties to flip with the kids myself later on down the line. But I guess ideally I'd be looking for investors that would purchase properties near where my school is. It doesn't need to be directly where it is, but close by, so that we could work together to flip that. They make their profit in the house anyway. It will take a bit longer though than normal, because you're going to get kids to come in and see what they're doing, and if you're going to let them try something out, like that is going to take a little bit of time. So I think it's better just to be upfront and honest about that than pretend that it would just be like a normal flip, just a kid's going to come in and out. That's not what it's going to be like. But yeah, if we could work together to make that happen, that's basically the ideal situation for me, I guess.
And for the sake of people watching this that don't know either you or me at this point, what area is that, so we can pick that up?
Okay, so I'm in Thurrock, so that's where I mainly source properties. However, my school is in Newham, and I can source in East London. I'm from Newham anyway, I grew up there. And my commute, if anyone knows the area, is down the A13, which is just chock-a-blocker every day. So basically anywhere between Newham and Thurrock is the area that would be perfect to source the properties and let kids come in and see what we're doing.
Perfect. Is there anything else you want to throw out into the ethos for people to know about?
Yes. So when I say I said AP today, but sometimes I refer to my school as a behaviour school, and that can really, really put people off. Because they think, oh, those kids, they must be fighting all the time. They must be really horrible kids. And I just want to put out there that they're not horrible kids. In fact, sometimes they're just kids that need a lot of love. Sometimes they do treat us bad, but if you think about it, you treat the people that are closest to you probably the worst because you feel comfortable with them. So however horrible that is to work with, sometimes, not all the time, it's because of a need. It's because we are close to them and closer sometimes than their own families. A lot of my students are in care, or they don't live in care, but they might not live with their parents, they might live with other people. Newham is a very poor place in London, and yeah, a lot of them have needs that are just misunderstood. And as well as there being hard days, like some days are easy. Sometimes I'm just sitting there chatting to the kids about what they're up to on the weekend. Sometimes we're playing table tennis. I teach art GCSE, so sometimes we're just painting. And the reason I love what I do actually is when a kid goes to me, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And then an hour later, they're like, you know what, miss, it's all right. I think I'm all right at this. And I'm like, yes. Like, you know, when you see somebody realize that they can do something, because I think that's something that not just kids need, everybody needs that. Everybody sometimes needs to feel like, I didn't think I could, but I just realized I can, and I could do anything if I put my mind to it. And yes, that's what I wanted to say.
Brilliant. And I think that's completely relevant. I think it's people do get tarnished, and it is a real shame. So yes, thank you for explaining that out to us. And I hope that you also apply that to yourself as well.
Thanks. I'll have you to do it for me, Sharon. You're always like, doing good, Shona.
Right. Thank you very much for your time. I'm going to stop recording now. Okay. Have a good day, everybody.